Hello everyone and welcome to this TikTok Run Your Career session. It's great to have you all with us here today, which after I'm hoping the rest of the day you have found super useful. I know that I've delved into a few of the sessions already and taken away some key points, which definitely helped me with my career, and fingers crossed TikTok can continue to do that for you over the next 45 minutes or so. So, as I mentioned, a very warm welcome. My name is Claire. I work within the student recruitment team here at TikTok, and we're going to go through a few different things with you today. And I'm very happy to be joined with some of my colleagues, and we'll come on to some introductions in a moment. So to kick the session off, I'll give you an idea about what we're going to go through. So we'll do some introductions. We're going to be using Slido today. For those of you who haven't used this before, this is basically like a Q&A and a poll system. So any questions that you do have throughout the session, please do let us know, and we will come on to some answering some of those questions at the end. We're going to talk a little bit more about life at TikTok and what that looks like to be an intern and really kind of growing yourself and developing your skills. And then we're going to come on to some expert insight into the recruitment process. And then, as I mentioned, some Q&As at the end as well. So please do let us know through Slido what you think and also some of the questions that you might have. So it's an absolute pleasure today to be joined by two of my colleagues from TikTok, and we'll go through and say hello. So today's speakers, we have Monique, who is a European communications intern. So hi, Monique, thank you very much for joining us today. And we also have Neil, who's a talent acquisition partner. So I'm not going to go into too many intros now because we've each got a few sections later on in the session where you can both introduce yourself. But to kick off, I think really I want to be able to give you guys the information on Slido so you can participate and make it as an engaging session today as much as we possibly can. So you can either use a QR code or please also use the hashtag. So you just go to sli.do on your browser, on your phone, etc. And then you can submit questions through to us. My colleague Nikhil is very kindly going to be going through some of those questions and we'll have a look at some towards the end of the session today. Now, as a bit of an introduction to TikTok, we had a session earlier around sort of getting to know what we do behind the scenes, and hopefully some of you were able to tune in to hearing from Anne and the team there, which I thought was a really fun session, and understanding a little bit more about the different types of jobs that you can do on a creative platform. This session today is going to focus a little bit more on recruitment and how you're able to work with us and for us, and the type of skills that we look for. And especially in the European space, because I'm really excited to say that we have student programs that are launching in 2021. And I can talk to you about student recruitment until the cows come home. So the main thing for us today is for you to hear from the people that work at TikTok, and actually as well, how you can bring yourselves to work properly and fully as individuals, and how we utilize the different skills that you have, and how diversity is important to as a TikTok as well. So to kick off, I am going to hand over to Monique. It would be great if you could provide a little bit of an introduction to yourself, Monique.
Hi, I'm Monique. I'm London-based and I'm 22 years old. So as was mentioned earlier, I'm an EU communications intern at TikTok, and I've been at TikTok now since May. The time has just flown, like literally, it seems like I started literally a few weeks ago. So previous to TikTok, I was an intern at Airbnb for 6 months, where I also worked in the communications team. But I was just focused on UK consumer communications. And before that, I graduated from university in July 2019, where I studied multimedia journalism. I kind of split my time. I'd done a bit in Coventry University, but had to tone down on like the partying and all of that. So I moved back to London for my final year, and I finished off in third year. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Great. So hopefully, I think you'll be able to give us some really good insight into what life is like at TikTok. And also because both, yourself and I, we've started at TikTok during national pandemic, and everyone knows that, it's been a difficult sort of year for a lot of people, and how that's impacted us, and also the way in which we kind of communicate across our sort of global teams, and actually sort of not being in the office and things as well, and how the culture really makes an impact on that is really important. So hopefully we'll be able to give everyone a bit of an insight into that. So maybe to start off with, what would be really interesting is talking more maybe about your role. So what does it look like kind of on a day-to-day basis, if you can talk about it in that kind of granular detail?
So the really cool thing about, I think, being an intern at TikTok is that you have day-to-day things, day-to-day tasks, but you also have so much freedom to do projects and work on campaigns of your interest. So day-to-day, I kind of do things like media monitoring. So that would be throughout the EU, seeing the kind of coverage that TikTok are getting day-to-day, looking at Twitter monitoring, so kind of what journalists are talking about TikTok, what media outlets are talking about TikTok. As well as this, I help to look at the PR inbox, looking at all inbound inquiries, research tasks, looking at the newsroom, looking at blog posts that are due to go live. So they would be like day-to-day tasks. But like I said, the amazing thing, and this is really what I love about TikTok, is that there's so much freedom to get involved in stuff you want to do. So for example, I've been getting involved in, as of recent, the Black History Month campaign that's been going on, which has been amazing. And since I've started, I've really got to do loads of things that I enjoy. Yeah.
Awesome. Gosh, it sounds like even though you're an intern, your role is very busy. You've got lots of different things day to day that you can do.
Yeah, not complaining.
Sure. Okay, fab. And I mean, you've spoken a little bit. Yeah. Well, you spoke a little bit about sort of your favorite thing. Is there something in particular that's stood out for you within your role that has been special, or sort of your favorite thing whilst you've been here since you started?
So obviously, I just mentioned Black History Month, which has been a highlight because
Yeah.
it's amazing to be at a job where where everyone values like Black employees' opinions. And it's been just great to be able to like literally take a lead, even as an intern. People,
Yeah.
my team, have been listening to me. Like when blog posts have been going on, they've been like, "Oh, Monique, can you check over this to see if this is like the right context, if it's out of key?" Like it's so nice to know that people, even as an intern, people on my team will still trust me with that. As well as that, I've been able to help with the newsletter with Black History Month, which has been amazing because once again, like even like people have allowed me to take a lead and literally run with a project that I'm really passionate about. As well as this, I would say another highlight would be, so I was a big TikTok fan, obviously, before I joined, and the creators have always been a massive thing for me. And when I joined, I was really keen with another intern, my friend and intern, Fanta. We were really keen to increase the diversity of creators that we're working with and that we're putting out. So we have actually worked on a creator database with a range of
cool.
diverse creators, not just like Black, but LGBTQ plus, confidence, all of that. And that has been so nice to see being used throughout different functions in the business. Different people are tuning into our database and we add to that on a weekly basis. So yeah, there'll just be a few of my highlights, but there's so many.
Gosh, it seems like loads. And I think one thing for me, especially kind of touching on what you mentioned, was that with a lot of the Black History Month activity that we're doing, it also enables you personally to get to know a lot of other people. And I know in the session earlier, we mentioned the Black community group that we have, but also just to kind of increase your own brand amongst different people across the business. And as an intern, I think that's something quite special as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like, even though we're like not in an office, we're working remotely, it's people still open to just getting to know you and work with you, not just your team. So yeah, like you said, that's another amazing thing.
Cool. And is there anything, I think, like since you started, and I've noticed this as well, around kind of like culture that's stood out for you as an intern that's made you feel like, oh yeah, I can fit in here, even though maybe we aren't seeing each other face to face as much?
Yeah, like I mean, the intern community itself is great. We call ourselves the Tick Terms, which is and we have like a social every Friday, and like I also like see my direct intern group. Like I see them regularly. I mentioned Fanta earlier. Like I see them just for a drink and stuff. So there's that kind of culture, and then there's also the whole just wider. There's a really family kind of community feeling. People are really willing to just have a chat. A couple people in my team I meet bi-weekly, and I just literally just to catch up. The culture is so nice. People are just happy to have conversation, which I think is so important at the moment, especially because you can feel a bit isolated at home. You don't get the coffee breaks that you might get in an office. So it's so nice that even though I'm an intern, people are willing to just, put 15 minutes, put half an hour in my diary and just have a chat. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely echo that. And I could see Neil nodding as well, nodding away, because I think, since I started, we've had things like care packages in the post, and we have like coffee moments where we can meet anyone from the European team who we might not like immediately know, but then after a quick virtual coffee, then you're expanding your network, and things like we have like water cooler moments forum as well, where we have like a little competition each week and share different fun things and playlists for a Friday afternoon, which are definitely one of my highlights as well, to get you ready for the weekend. So it's cool that that is also transpired to the student space, and interns kind of get to benefit that and see the positives towards that kind of culture as well at TikTok, which I think is important.
Yeah, definitely. I forgot how I forgot to mention the care packages because they're definitely my favorite. Like,
yeah, you can't go wrong with some TikTok merchandise.
yeah, literally.
Awesome. So if we kind of take a step back a little bit, so think about sort of where you're at when you're in your final year of university. And I know you mentioned earlier that you'd known about the app and you used the app anyway. Is that kind of what made you want to work for TikTok? What were your motivations?
I mean, definitely. It's actually quite a weird one. So before, in my old internship, I created something called TikTok Tuesdays, and we used to TikTok every Tuesday, and was posted in this group chat we had. And then I was kind of like, I wonder what it would be like to work at TikTok. But I think the thing is with TikTok, especially like as a graduate, like a kind of fresh graduate, 6 months in, I was kind of like, oh, could I get a job at TikTok? Do I have enough experience? Like, is it? But really, in the end, I just went for it and I just applied. And like I was saying to you, Claire, it was literally like applying to Tesco, applying to Sainsbury's. Like it's just an application. What like just put it through. So I put that through, and yeah, the application process was pretty smooth from there. But it was literally the fact that I just enjoy using TikTok, and I enjoy making videos with my friends, with my girls, and just the love for the app really made me want to go for it.
Yeah, and then you can sort of align it with your creativity as well, which is always nice. And I know that there's been sort of loads of videos around Black History Month and our My Roots campaign and things, which have been really complimentary, and being able to see people's personalities really stand out in the space, and using TikTok as, I guess, a platform for that has been exciting as kind of like an internal, like an employee, has been really fun to see.
The thing is, you use the app so much. Like like I said, I do like live content, looking at that, or looking at different things that are just going on, different trends. So you use the app so much. So loving the app is just as important, I think. Like when you get to work, that you just need to love the app as well.
I think I have a running joke with my family at the moment where they're like, are you actually doing any work? Because I'm like scrolling, looking for particular, maybe like careers advice creators or things like that on the app. I'm like, yeah, it's relevant to what we're doing. I'm not just scrolling and using the app, but it does really help sort of in day-to-day roles, doesn't it? So cool. Okay, so when you were applying, sort of how did you hear about sort of the intern opportunities at TikTok? And sort of how did you apply?
So it was through LinkedIn that I
Okay.
had the opportunity, and I literally just applied through LinkedIn that way. the process was pretty smooth, to be honest. It was about like from applying to actually getting the job was probably about 2 months. But once I had like a reply, once I'd sent the application off, every interview was like 2 weeks, and I only had 2 interviews, which was great. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it depends, and I mean Neil will probably come into this and share a bit of his knowledge here as well as expert insight into the recruitment process. But the types of roles that we have, and whether it's technical or more of a, I guess, business-led role. So I think we can come on to sort of more tips around the interview process and things like that for sure. What did you kind of think about your overall experience with going into interviews? Because I find that we often as well maybe don't want to sometimes like maybe second guess ourselves. We don't necessarily want to put ourselves forward. Like you said, you know, you're applying for a lot of different things at the same time. As a grad, you're like, oh, I'm not sure whether I have the right experience. How did you find that process, and would you do anything like differently looking back at it?
I think the interview, what I'd do differently is probably not be so nervous, and like I probably like over prepared because I was so nervous because it's TikTok. But the two people who interviewed me, one's actually my manager now, so friendly, so conversational. Like half of the interview was obviously like the standard interview questions, wanted to know what I'm like, but we ended up just having a chat, me and my current manager now. Like it was so nice, and it was just so like natural. And I think like my main tip was just don't overthink it, don't get too nervous. And I'd say also to definitely try and utilize LinkedIn, like get to know, just have a look at the people who might be on your team, have a look at people in TikTok who might be doing something similar to you, and just utilize LinkedIn, because that really helped me with my application process as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's some good tips there to be able to actually take a step back and have a think about how you can really maybe improve your skills and use LinkedIn for that kind of thing. What would you say around sort of what stood out for you with TikTok when you were applying for TikTok?
Ooh, what stood out for me when I was applying to TikTok?
Was it part of maybe like that culture side of things?
Yeah, it was. I'd say it's generally the way the interview went. It wasn't like a traditional interview. Like I said, it was very conversational. It wasn't so much like just asking questions, me replying. It was like really getting to know. And that really stood out to me. And it kind of made me know it was the type of job that I wanted. It was the type of company that I wanted to work for, because I could just tell that it wasn't just about like my skills and stuff. It was really about who I was as a person. And I really liked that as part of the interview process.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that's been super useful. Thank you so much for sharing your insight. And like I said, you know, I can talk about the student recruitment opportunities and things, but actually hearing from someone who's already in the business, I think makes a lot of sense for other people who are dialing in today and understanding a little bit more about what life is like at TikTok. I am going to come back on to some questions a little bit later on, but in the meantime, I will hand over to you, Neil. I think I'm having a few technical difficulties this side, so hopefully you can still hear me and we can continue as much as you can. Sorry to drop you in it, Neil. But if we can have a bit of an introduction from you, and then I'll try to get it sorted on my side on my computer as well.
Yeah, no problem, Claire. And thanks very much, Monique, as well. I think it's fantastic that you're able to give that level of insight. We're going to cover a lot of the areas about how interns can get involved and how they can join the business and the application process. So as Claire said, if we could go to the next slide, please. I'm going to cover off three key areas to think about when looking at internships at TikTok. And so just to kind of give you a bit of an insight into my area, I am part of the HR and talent acquisition team. I work on the revenue generating side of the business. So that is where we are looking for drawing, obviously, brands and advertisers to the platform. So I don't know if, Claire, you can move to the next slide at all. If not, I can try to share my screen as well. Live TV and technical issues do go hand in hand. We should have prepared for this. Okay, 1 second. Okay. Is that showing, Monique? Is that presentation showing?
Perfect, yeah.
Perfect, excellent. Okay, so as I was saying, we are going to cover a few different areas in the how to get discovered part of the business. And really, it's a process which is how to discover our roles. It really starts with, as Monique said, looking at our channels. Where do we have those roles posted? A lot of them are posted on the careers website. A lot of them are posted on our LinkedIn pages as well. So if you look at our careers website, where you'll find those different areas, I'll just move that across. God, I think we are over the worst of the technical issues. So, like I said, where we look to post our roles, careers page, you'll find those positions, but also look at the students and grads page, which should help you in the beginning of that search process. Get to know our app, as Monique clearly said, knowing the product, knowing the business. We're interested in really authentic and detailed experiences of how you're finding it. Whether you are new to the platform or whether you are also, someone who creates content, with dance challenges and lip syncs. We want to hear about that sort of authentic engagement you have with the product. Really go to research the business where possible as well. I think it goes without saying, we've got obviously different areas and functions. So maybe when you begin to think about applying to TikTok, consider those different sort of areas, and maybe if they align to your education or prior academic experience, or maybe even previous internships as well. Get familiar with those different functions and how they potentially align to what best represents you in your experience. And obviously tune into everything that we're doing here with Black Tech Quest as well. I think, hopefully enjoying the content. There's been some great content today. And, get to know us. It's all about building your network as well. All right, I've got to try to move to the next slide. Here we go. So as well as discovery, what are the things that we look for? So I think a lot of on this slide is likely to have already been considered. And I think most people would consider that coming into a intern application. However, if I was to pick out a couple of areas which are really pertinent to us at TikTok, it's probably our bite styles. And I think each one of Claire and Monique would agree that our bite styles definitely make up who we are as a business and our values. So our bite styles can be found. We talk about them quite a lot. And one of them is always day one. So I can say from my own experience of being at TikTok and also joining this year as well, I can definitely tell you that no day has ever been the same as the other. And if you enjoy that, and if you can get comfortable with that sort of always day one mentality, then there's a good chance that you'll probably share the same values that we have here in the business. If you look at some of our other bite styles, for example, championing diversity and inclusion and being open and humble, these are also definite traits that we look for people to demonstrate. So, it's easy to sort of, think about these things as sort of, just mantras, but we really do sort of look for those examples of where people have maybe sort of gone into details about, how they've demonstrated that open and humble attitude and how they've championed diversity and inclusion. So if you can sort of align that with a passion for technology, a spirit for collaboration. Some of the best examples I've heard in the interview process of where people have displayed a builder mentality, that's something that we talk about quite a lot in this business, about having that builder mentality. So if you can demonstrate those things as a fast growing business, then, you can absolutely rest assured that the interviewer on the other side is taking note of that. And then we come on to obviously the application process. So this is where you bring it all together. where your research in the business has informed what part you're most interested in, and also how you put that into practice. So I think the interview technique we advise candidates adopt is the STAR method. So that's the way to answer questions. STAR method is a structured manner responding to a behavioral-based interview question. So discussing a specific situation, a task, an action, and a result of the situation that you're describing. And also prepare questions for the interviewer. I'm always more engaged whenever I'm facing a question, whether it's about how I started out in the business or how the business is turning and growing in this unusual climate of a pandemic. And I think lastly, showcase your qualities. I think that's the thing that we really want to sort of underline here. I touched on the bite styles earlier, and Monique gave some great examples about how she got noticed as well. But think about how you can demonstrate that always day one mentality. TikTok really values authenticity and creativity. Everything that we stand for on the platform is something that we want to carry through to our candidate experience as well. So show us those qualities and what makes you unique.
Thanks so much, Neil. Hopefully I am back in action now, so apologies for any technical difficulties. But I will say that, one of the things we also look for is to be very adaptable and think on your feet. So, we can put a bit of a spin on that and say, Neil, you've got the job, that's it. You work for TikTok anytime and think on your feet when you have technical difficulties.
Exactly.
These things always happen. So apologies for any interruption there. But thank you so much. I think, that's been able to hopefully give everyone a bit more of an insight into what we look for. I think key things for me are definitely, to make sure you've done your research and looking at the bite styles and see how you kind of fit in to some of your own insights and what you find important in a role. And then that STAR technique as well, because we have interviewers from all over the world. So if you are able to structure your responses quite clearly and coherently, then that's going to be really useful when we work with people from all different backgrounds and cultures and who use different languages and things like that. So some really key points there around how to discover TikTok and what we look for, and also the application process. Great. So the next thing we're going to move on to is some Q&As. So hopefully some of you will have seen that we've got the Slido, got some questions coming through, and hopefully you've all been quite nice to us, fingers crossed, for the session today. So let's have a quick look to see what's come through. Okay, Neil, off the bat, I'm going to send this one through to you. So Stacey has asked, what kind of roles do we hire into in the UK? So what kind of business areas do we look into, and what roles do you hire for as well?
Yeah, good question. So I guess the areas that we recruit for within the UK, I guess it's fair to say we have various different parts of TikTok. We have our consumer-facing side of the business. We have the revenue-generating side, which is the part that I work for. And then we have our trust and safety side of the business as well. So we all recruit those three areas of the business within the UK. And specifically, as I mentioned, with being the revenue-generating side of the business, and our key objective is obviously drawing brands and advertisers to the platform to generate revenue. We obviously hire quite heavily within that sales space, within that account management space, or client solutions as we call it, and also within the marketing space. I mean, that's just three areas of where there's been huge growth within the revenue generating side of the business. And I would say, if that is something that, maybe pertains to Stacey's academic background or even just prior internships, then that's maybe the area for her to investigate a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. And I think, there's a real wide range. And I think that's one of the things when I first, I come from a professional services, a tech background, but when I started working for TikTok, I probably kind of thought of it as more of the consumer brand, right? So you go and you use the app and you see ads and whatever, but actually, the amount of roles and things that go into the planning for events such as Black Tech Fest, etc., behind the scenes, and the amount of kind of creativity that's going on amongst employees as well, means that there's lots of different opportunities. So from things around expanding our user growth and the users on the app, to our content generation and making sure we have diversity across that, through to potentially machine learning and looking at music machine learning, and a lot of kind of the viral music that is on the app as well, and kind of dominates a lot of the top 40 in the charts at the moment. For a lot back to kind of our music team there, and legal. So there is kind of a real range. And what I would advise there is, if you're not quite sure as to where your skills link into maybe some of the areas that Neil was talking about, we do have a student careers site. So we will make sure to pop this on their details. Go see our careers booth as well. And it will be on there to see the link. And you can actually have a look at the different business areas and the different programs that we have that are launching in 2021 for students as well, and see what might kind of match up to your experiences and your motivations. Great. Okay, so let's have a look. So what is the assessment process like for some of the roles? So Monique, you said obviously that you had 2 interviews. It can vary depending on which role you go for. What were those interviews like, Monique? Was it kind of like an interview that you had previously? You know, you said that you'd spoken at Airbnb before. You'd worked at Airbnb before.
Now that you said assessment, I just realised I did do a little assessment as well. So I'll just go over that as well. So the assessment that I done was obviously, because I'm going into communications, I had to write a statement, and I had to do some media monitoring, which is what I do on a daily now. So it kind of makes sense. So I think assessment wise, with my internship, it was kind of things that I'll be doing day to day. And then the interview itself was, yeah, like I said, it was quite different to anything I've done before. It wasn't too long, but it was like very conversational, and as well as the normal questions. Yeah.
And I think, you know, in the student space, you know, if you come in as an experienced hire candidate, then the process can be a bit different because you have prior experience working in another similar business or a similar field, etc. Whereas when you're a student, we're fully aware, you know, that it might be your first role, it might be the first opportunity for you to get work experience. So this is considered during the recruitment process. So you're not going to come in, and I don't know what you thought, Monique, but like, you're not going to come into an interview and it be sort of really, really difficult and asking us loads of questions about your experience. It's more about you as an individual and what creativity and what you can bring to the role you're applying for.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Actually, off the back of that, we've someone's just mentioned like what kind of interviews they are. So I know across a lot of different graduate scheme applications and internship applications, there will be video interviews, there might be testing at the start, there might be an element of doing some sort of like strengths thing, etc. So with the actual interviews, a lot of them are video interviews, aren't they? So very much like what we would do like on Zoom today. Were both of yours videos as well, Monique?
Yeah, both of mine were video interviews.
Yeah. And Neil, have you found it, you know, at the moment we're obviously during coronavirus, so everything is more digital focused. Have you seen that that's kind of changed anything for you, or any tips around how people should interact via video interviews rather than face to face?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, it's a completely different dynamic to engage with someone. And even though essentially you're still having a conversation, it's a conversation where you don't get to see body language, and you can't maybe emote in the same way in which you would in a face-to-face interview.
Yeah.
It's something candidates should definitely be mindful of, but also us as interviewers have to be as well. So, you know, if I'm making notes, if I'm tapping away on my keyboard about the interview, then I kind of want to make sure that I'm not doing it to distract the person that I'm talking to as well. So there's all sorts of different considerations that we like to sort of give to the new normal of interviewing like this. But I think by and large, most people have adapted really well. And we're actually seeing that sort of, you know, people are taking this to a different level of creativity. I've had I've recruited for the marketing team quite heavily here in our part of the business, and I've had instances where people have taken the reins and shown me their creative portfolio by sharing the screen. So these opportunities are really there to be adapted to, and you can actually kind of make it work for you.
Yeah, I totally agree. And also it allows for us as an international company to have a lot more people involved in the recruitment process and have, teams that are across different regions. So I work really closely with a team in Singapore, in India, in China, in the US. So actually when it comes to interviews and sharing knowledge and things like that, it's been really useful for us to move over to the digital side of things. I think a few things from me maybe to support everyone who's dialed in today. When we always talk about video interviews, I think there's a few things that you can look at. So treat it as if almost you were face to face with someone. So we talk a lot at the moment when everyone's at home, someone's wearing pajama bottoms or that type of thing. It's more about the mentality and getting ready for actually undertaking that interview. So if you're getting yourself ready, you're comfortable with what you're wearing and potentially how you look, and you've got your answers prepared, you're going to be in a more of a positive mindset, right? So it's definitely, I think, making sure you are as prepped as possible, even though it is still on your computer and you might be sat in your lounge or wherever you are. It's still treating it with kind of the same level of preparedness. And I also say, in previous roles where the application process that I've gone through has been sort of telephone interviews. Telephone interviews, I always, stand up, move around, get talking a little bit more, be energetic, because then you can actually come across more as kind of your own unique self and bring across more of your own ideas and be more comfortable. And that's what we want to see. Right. So, we've alluded to it lots in the webinar today, is that we are looking for those people that can be creative and bring ideas and be really comfortable in the roles. So that's definitely something that we want to see at the interview stage as well, and that will help you going forward and hopefully succeed. Okay. Sure. Thank you. And so a couple of other questions to finish us off for today. So we have got, when do the opportunities for 2021 open? So there's a few things that you can do. So the first one is actually being able to look at our student careers website. So as I mentioned, go to the careers booth, have a look at the links there, chat around the Black Tech Fest today and learn as much as you possibly can. We have roles in Europe that are already open for 2021, so please keep an eye out on those. We will also have experience hire roles that are constantly updated on our career site and through LinkedIn. And then also similar to the role that Monique's come into, so we do have off-cycle internships that start during different times of the year. So you can keep an eye out for those if you are maybe a recent graduate or someone who is looking for something more immediately rather than 2021. So lots of different opportunities there for you to be able to come into. Let's have a look for one final question before we kick off the day today. Let's have a look. How is the work-life balance? I'll hand over to you, Monique and Neil, whoever wants to take that one.
Do you know what? The work-life balance is really good, because even my team, we recently had a chat in our weekly call about how important it is just to make sure, because I think when you are working remotely, it's easy to just, quickly, I'll just continue another 10 minutes or I'll start a bit earlier. But
yeah,
had a chat, it's so important to make sure you are just logging off, turning off your Lark or your Messenger, which I think it's really nice to actually, because it yourself that you should do it, but it's nice to hear it from people who are higher up for you, especially as an intern, because you're so keen to prove yourself and work as hard as you can. But no, the work-life balance is really good, and people my team are really persistent in making sure that as interns we're not overworking, and that we are getting a break and we are having a lunch break or we're popping for a walk. So yeah,
I think that's really important. I don't know if you think the same, Neil.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the business has gone a huge way to make sure that we are getting those sort of breaks as well. No meeting blocks are put in the diaries, and our amazing sort of well-being and mindfulness programs as well, which is sort of there for everyone to sort of be a part of. So there's a huge amount of sort of work I think the business are sort of putting into to make sure that people aren't overworking, because like Monique said, the temptation is maybe there, especially when people are new and you want to prove yourself to be doing a good job and being capable, and that's a lot of pressure for anyone to sort of manage. So I think the company's been really sort of over communicative, which is really good, about sort of making sure, and the need for looking after everyone's sort of, I guess, well-being, and making sure they're not overdoing it on the screen time.
Yeah, I think that's something we have to consider, whatever role you're in at the moment, whether you're working from home, etc., we are spending so much more time in front of a screen. And so what I tend to do is, try and step out and have a walk in the morning or the afternoon and flex my hours a little bit more where possible. And that's going to support us because, some companies aren't fully going back to the office until next year. We just don't know what's going to happen over the coming months. So we all have to look after each other. And, recently it's been Mental Health Awareness Day and lots of different campaigns. And I think it's important that as individuals, whether, TikTok, Google, whoever you work for, that we can support each other with that and try and maintain that work-life balance where we can. Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here today. Apologies for the technical issues, but it's going to be the case. It always happens, doesn't it? So what I will say is, please make sure you stop by our careers booth. Come and say hi to us. If you're an experienced hire entrant, someone who's looking for an experienced hire role through the Black Tech Fest system, please come and speak to us between 3 and 5 p.m. And students as well, we would love to hear from you and hear your stories and see how we can support you all with your career. So thank you very much, Neil and Monique, for sharing their knowledge and their stories here today. I hope that's been really useful. And that is everything from the TikTok team today. I will say, please join us tomorrow during Black Tech Fest, because we have an amazing session as well that's running with a fireside chat with one of our colleagues, Trevor. So please do log in for that. And hopefully there will be less technological issues than we've had today. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.